What's up, guys? Charlie Robinton here with another episode of Fly Tying with Emerald Water Anglers. I've got some exciting stuff for you today. I'll be tying a reverse Marabou tube fly on a Pro Tubes flexitube. So if you haven't checked this stuff out already, it's really cool. This is a flexitube. It's basically a piece of small diameter tubing married to a piece of larger diameter tubing. What this allows is you can really be creative and customize the style and size of fly you're going to create. You can make any type of fly, from a big intruder style fly down to your smaller, more traditional steelhead patterns and marabous like I'm going to tie today. Comes in a bunch of different colors, and it's really cool stuff. So I suggest you check it out. Follow along today, and I really hope you enjoy this episode of Fly Tying with Emerald Water Anglers. So I'm going to start off by placing this Pro Tubes flexi needle in the vise. This is a mandrel for the tubes. You need it if you're going to tie with Pro Tubes. It fits pretty much any vise. Just place it in like so, and you're ready to go. So because I'm not tying with the entire length of tubing, I'm going to take and I'm going to clip off about 1/4 inch off the end, about half of this back end off. So you can give me the length of tubing that I want to tie this marabou fly. Now, because this is a reverse marabou tube fly, I'm actually going to insert the tube on the needle backwards, where most of the time you'd use the big end first, placing it on the needle this way. I'm going to do it in reverse and put that small end on first. Just fits on just like that. You're ready to tie. So I'm going to start my thread off at the junction of the two tubes and just go up about halfway up this soft tube, smaller diameter tube. So that's going to be about how long my fly's going to be altogether. And this fly is going to be a red and orange marabou fly. So I'm going to start off with red because once this fly is flipped around, I want the red to be at the head of the fly. So you're tying everything in reverse. You want to tie it in by the tip, wrap it on a few times, and I kind of gauge my flies this way. I'll wrap down the shank about as far as I want it to go with this marabou. So this is about 1/8 of an inch. And then I'll just begin palmering that marabou. A good tip with this marabou, if you want it to lay flat and palmer nicely, fold it over itself. Your thumb and your forefinger, or your thumb and your middle finger, however you want to do it. But fold it over itself as you wrap. Another tip with palmering marabou, especially with tube fly or marabou tube flies, is that don't wrap the marabou right next to itself. Give it a little bit of space between wraps. That's going to create a little bit more movement in your fly, and it's not going to pack the marabou on there. If you compact your marabou too much, you're going to get a really fluffy, puffy fly that doesn't really move very well in the water, and it's going to have a tendency to want to buoy in the current and float up. So it's not good. You want to leave a little bit of space between wraps to make a nice kind of sparser tube fly with a lot of movement. So if you've noticed, I've wrapped the thread much further back for this orange feather than I did for the red. That's because I want more of this orange feather on there than I want red. So I'm going to do the same thing, fold the feather back, and just palmer it, leaving a little bit of space between wraps like I talked about. I promise this is going to be the last fly for a while I show you guys where I'm palmering marabou. I know it's getting kind of boring with the palmered marabou on every single fly, so next time we'll do something different. I promise. But I thought it would be a nice, simple, cool fly to do with the Pro Tube system. And ready for the next step. I'm going to add in some UV polar chenille. This stuff is really cool if you haven't seen it. It's a hairline product. It's kind of a long fibrous chenille. It's about an inch long, 3/4 of an inch to an inch, wrapped around a braided body, and it creates some really cool effect on the flies. It's also got a UV iridescence, shows up well to the fish, and also creates a little bit of flash. And what this is going to do is give us a little flash and also add some support to those marabou fibers, giving the fly a little more puffy, pulsating action in the current. So I'm going to lay that in there, just cut off a little, about a 2-inch section of that polar chenille, wrap it down nice and tight, and then just wrap this guy around. Make sure to pull those fibers back as you go. Normally you should have left yourself room to make 5 wraps of this stuff. So let's see if I did this right. So I like to just hold that stuff back out of the way, wrap it off kind of like you're doing a head on a fly. Don't need to be too neat on this one because it's just going to be the butt of the fly in the end. Whip finish it or half hitch it or however you want to tie it off. Clip your thread, and this fly is almost complete. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the back end of the fly to seal it down. And now, cool part, flip this guy around to finish it off. So, check this out. This is why we tie these in reverse. So look how it just puffs out. Really puffy. When you blow out, you can see how it's going to just move and pulse in the current. That's why you tie these in reverse, because it really creates a fuller, much more fluffy, puffy fly that's really going to move in the current and have some great, enticing fish catching action. So now I'm going to put it back forward on the fly, or on the vise. Start my thread again. The final steps are just going to be adding some flash and a little collar. I like to wrap over just a little bit, give the fly a little bit of durability so that thin marabou stem isn't exposed. And I'll put just a little glue on there just to cinch my thread down to the tube before I keep going. Double the flash boot over, tie it down on top. Like so. Okay, and the last step is just adding a little color. I'm going to use mallard flank, just natural colored mallard flank. Work great on a fly like this. Pull all the fluffy stuff off the stem. Brush a little bit of it back, tie it in by the tip. Use the same method when you wrap this as I did with the marabou. Pinch it a little bit between your thumb and your middle finger or your index finger so that it all the fibers kind of run back over the back of the fly. And then wrap it around. It's going to make a much more even, good looking wrap. I'll just wrap that on down. Tie it off. fly is almost complete. And the final thing you got to do with these tube flies, obviously I got a lot of extra tube there, so I want to cut that down. I'm going to cut about a 1/16 of an inch above where I tied off my fly. Kind of hollow out that center section there with my scissors just to make sure it's not mashed up. And then take a lighter and hold it close to the end, just barely melting the plastic down back to where the thread's in. Make sure it's still open at the very end. Sometimes you gotta just poke a needle or something in it to make sure it stays open. And there you are. Now I like to brush these Marabou flies once I'm done with them, just to make sure that you've separated all the fibers. Makes the fly look nicer, but also I think it gives the fly more movement, makes it fish nicer when you end up getting it in the water. So brush those fibers back. At least I like to do that. And there it is. Reverse Marabou tube fly. I'm going to recap here really quickly. This is a reverse Marabou tube fly tied on a Pro Tube flexitube. And Pro Tubes is a great product, so go to the fly shop or look online and check them out. I hope you enjoyed this segment of Fly Time with Emerald Water Anglers. I'm Charlie Robinton. Until next time.